All right, we are doing a crash course today on our third lesson in the Top 20 Teens book of how we handle mistakes. So our first lesson from Top 20 Teens was talking about the frame, how we see things dictates how we feel about them, what we do about it, and then what we get from it. And then our second lesson from Top 20 Teens was about beliefs, and specifically about false beliefs and how those false beliefs or those negative beliefs really stop us from being successful. The other thing that stops us from being successful for a lot of us is how we handle mistakes. So I'm going to get my face out of the way here, and we are going to go through this. So the biggest thing that we want you to try to do is to be a top 20, not a bottom 80 when it comes to mistakes. And what we really want you to be able to do is to learn from those mistakes. So as we look at the top 20s and bottom 80s, there's like a huge similarity between them. And that similarity is that both top 20s and bottom 80s make mistakes. Okay, it is very simple. Honestly, what the other part of that is a lot of times top 20s actually make more mistakes than bottom 80s. Okay, the reason why top 20s lots of times make more mistakes is because they're risk takers. They're not worried about what happens if they make a mistake. They learn from their mistake once they make them, and then they also don't get embarrassed or mad when they've made those mistakes. Where when we are a bottom 80, okay, we don't want to make mistakes because we're afraid of what that response might be. So we actually don't take risks. We stay within our comfort zone, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. We also are super concerned about our mistakes because we don't know how other people are going to respond, okay? And we also stop learning from those mistakes. Now, again, we want you to understand the big difference between top 20s and bottom 80s, okay? The biggest difference is how they respond to mistakes. Okay, top 20s, like the saying goes on the right, top 20s don't cry over spilt milk. And that's something that when we're a bottom 80, we make a mistake, even if it's just a tiny little mistake, and we tend to get really concerned about it or we freak out about it. Now, the most powerful experience that we have when it comes to mistakes comes from ourselves, okay? We dictate how we feel after making a mistake. And honestly, it's what we have learned from how other people have responded to us screwing up. So the response that others make to us when we've screwed up or when we've made a mistake truly dictates how we feel about it. Okay, so think about your friends, think about teachers, think about the adults that are at home with you, think about coaches, teachers, anything like that. All these people that are in your life, okay, how they deal with your mistake truly dictates how you feel about it when you're presented with that same situation the next time. So again, how others respond to our mistakes will definitely shape how we feel about our future mistakes. So who are the people that we're worried about? Okay, a lot of times it's parents or guardians. It could be your friends. It could be siblings. It could be coaches, teachers, bosses, strangers, other people that you look up to in your life. Now, there's a fear that's involved here when we're worried about these people's opinions about us if we've screwed up or if we've made a mistake. And what I want to challenge you to do right now is to look at each of those categories right here. We got 6 of them. And I want you to think about what you think is going to happen around these people, or how are these people going to respond if you screw up around them? How do your parents or your guardians respond? Whether it's grades, whether it's breaking something in the kitchen, maybe it's talking bad back to them, maybe it's, being rude to your sibling. Okay, how are they going to handle that? What happens if you play bad in a game or a competition? Okay, what about your friends? What if you are running up the stairs at school and you trip up the stairs? We all know we've done that. Okay, how are your friends handling that mistake? What about you and your friend have taken the same math test and they did well and you did terrible? Okay, and how do they handle that? Okay, what about your siblings? Okay, what if you are messing around in their room and you're not supposed to be in there and you end up breaking something? What if you borrow a piece of clothing of theirs and then you end up getting it dirty or staining it? Okay, coaches and teachers. Okay, what if I make a mistake in my game? How is my coach dealing with that? What about if I'm in a performance, like if I'm in a play performance or if I'm in my band concert? What happens if I screw up? What does my band director do or what does our play director do? What about your teachers? What if you forget to turn an assignment in? What if you did an assignment completely wrong? What if you turn it into the wrong spot in Schoology? How is your teacher handling that? Okay. And then strangers, like if I'm walking through Target and I'm carrying a bunch of stuff because I didn't think I was going to get that much and I end up not getting a cart and I drop the jar of jelly and it's glass and now it breaks everywhere. Okay. What are the people around me doing and how are they responding? Or what am I worried about if they do see that happen? Okay? About other people you look up to. Are they going to be disappointed in you? Are they going to be mad at you? Are they going to not want to talk to you again? Okay, there's so many things that we can be concerned about if we screw up. Okay, but again, that really dictates how I feel about making mistakes. It's not me, it's about how other people are going to respond to me. Some really common negative responses that we get from other people are listed here. Okay, some people just get mad. Like your adults in your life might yell at you and they might punish you. They might judge you. That's more of like that friend or peer one. They might give you dirty looks. Okay, they might freak out at you. They might use sarcasm, which those of you who like sarcasm, it is not a nice thing. Okay, so please make sure you're using it appropriately. They might criticize you. They might not trust you anymore. They might start to ignore you. They might talk behind your back. They might be disappointed in you. Okay? That was always the worst one from my mom, is when she was disappointed in me. Oh, it broke my heart. Okay? Or ultimately, they might just turn against you. None of these are going to feel good. None of these feel awesome at all when other people respond like that to our mistakes. So the message they're sending us is super loud and clear. They're telling you not to screw up. They're telling you not to ever make a mistake. And what happens, those of us who tend to have a more of a perfectionistic personality, like we want to do everything 100% right, now we're just afraid. And we freeze when we're afraid, meaning we don't take risks. So what we're going to work on is getting that "you better not make a mistake" phrase out of our head altogether. So I'm going to tell you two different stories here. The first one is the flashlight story, and this is actually one of the authors from the book. His name is Michael Cole. So I'm going to read this story to you, and we're going to talk about some lessons that Michael learned. So although not an electrician, Michael Cole's father tried to repair wiring in his own home and for relatives. Since the electricity in the house had to be turned off while his father worked on the wiring, young Michael's job was to hold the flashlight so his father could see. If his father couldn't get something to work, he would always rage and swear at Michael for how he was holding the flashlight. "Michael, you are good for nothing. You never do anything right." If his father became displeased a second time, the punishment would become even more severe. It wasn't until the age of 48 that Michael heard a story about popcorn. Then he realized there was a better response to mistakes. He could learn from the mistakes without requiring the punishment. He could keep the lesson and throw away the mistake. So, because of how Michael's father responded, there's 3 lessons that he learned from his dad. The first one is he couldn't do anything right. It didn't matter, because if you think about it, Michael's just holding the flashlight and his dad's the one making the mistake. But instead of his dad owning his own mistake, he'd yell at Michael and blame it on him. So to Michael, nothing short of perfection was acceptable. That is not a fun way to live. Lesson number 2 is he learned to fear and deny mistakes. At first, he would lie about it, and if that didn't work, then he would just blame somebody else. Okay, exactly what his father taught him. And then finally, lesson number 3, he believed that the lesson in any mistake came only through punishment. So as an adult, when his father was no longer around, Michael would dwell on his mistakes and actually punish himself. And Michael Cole, who again is the author of the book that we're getting these lessons from, became a drug addict and alcoholic, okay, because that's how he would punish himself when he would screw up. Now we're going to talk about that popcorn story that Michael heard. So it says, one night, 7-year-old Paul wanted to make popcorn while his parents were in the living room. He undertook his cooking adventure in the kitchen. He put oil into the pot and placed it on a hot burner. Once the oil was hot, Paul reached up to pour popcorn seeds into the pot. Unfortunately, when the plastic bag containing the seeds touched the hot pot, a hole melted in the bag and the popcorn seeds spilled all over the stove, counter, and floor. Upon hearing this commotion, Paul's parents rushed into the kitchen and immediately asked, "Are you okay?" "Yes," Paul answered. Although he was startled by what had happened, he had not been burned. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm fine," Paul replied. "Oh, good," his parents said. "We'll help you clean up the mess." So Paul and his parents spent the next 10 minutes on the floor picking up the seeds. Now, the lesson that Paul learned is very important. So Paul's popcorn mistake and the way his parents responded to him made a powerful mental and emotional imprint on him and resulted in his learning 3 important lessons. The first one was Paul was way more important than the mistake. Okay? His parents' first question to him was, "Are you okay?" So because his parents' immediate reaction was for his well-being and not for the popcorn mess, he experienced deep value and worth. Certainly, this was reinforced by his parents many times throughout his life, not just with popcorn. Lesson number 2 is be there for people when they screw up. One of our purposes in life is to be there for others when they experience difficulties. It's not to make fun of them. It's not to be mean to them. It's not to ignore them and pretend it didn't happen. It's to help them. It is not our responsibility to clean it up for them, but to support them in making things better. And the third lesson is that mistakes are wonderful. Because many wonderful things can be learned from mistakes and risk-taking, they're to be valued and not avoided. So if you think about it, although Paul was only 7 years old when he was taking on this popcorn making on the stovetop experience, he was okay. He actually learned from that. Okay, he's not going to do that again, and his parents are going to feel confident in that, and they're going to let him try to make popcorn again in the future. So this experience taught Paul the attitude and belief that mistakes are beneficial. Now, these are our personal negative responses to mistakes, and there's 4 of them that are negative. First one is denial. You see it right behind me as well. The second one is blame. Third is to justify. Fourth is to dwell. So to deny a mistake means that we deny the mistake by stating that it didn't happen. We don't talk about it. We block it out. We get defensive about it when someone brings it up to us. The second one is blame. And again, we talked about this, about the frame, is that this is typically everyone's favorite one. So we acknowledge the mistake, like, yeah, I know I screwed up. But then what we do is we turn it on somebody or something else. Well, he did it, or she made me do it. Or we blame the circumstance. Well, if the ball wouldn't have been slippery if it wasn't raining outside. Okay? Well, if someone else would have been playing next to me in that competition, okay, I probably would have done better. So we blame in order to get off the hook and help, and this helps us avoid all responsibility and accountability. The third one is to justify. We admit to the mistake but give reasons for our actions to free us from any blame or criticism. Well, I didn't get my homework done because I was mowing the lawn for you. Okay, so I say, yeah, I didn't get the thing I was supposed to get done because I was doing something for you. I justify it. And then finally, the last negative one is to dwell. And a lot of us are dwellers. We can't get over that mistake. We focus on nothing else but that mistake. We allow the mistake to completely overwhelm us and take over our life. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. I never do anything right. Of course I screwed it up again. Or we tend to over apologize to the people that it affected. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. And they're like, it's fine. We're done with it. No, I can't. I'm so sorry. And maybe even a couple days later, we are apologizing for it again. The best response and the fifth response to a mistake is to learn. We want you to own it. We want you to say, yes, I screwed it up. I learned from my lesson. And now the biggest part of it is right here. We need you to now change your behavior. By looking the mistake in the eye, we can learn the lesson that life is trying to teach us. We use this mistake as a teacher. Well, I just made a mistake, so what can I do now? So when we operate like a bottom 80, we respond really negatively. Okay, we deny the mistake, we blame, we justify, we dwell. Okay, and we're likely to make that same mistake over again. So it's also the same when we talk about a non-apology. You say, well, I guess I'm sorry. Okay, that's not really being sorry, because if we're truly apologetic for something, we will learn and then we'll make that change. When people operate like a top 20, you're going to respond positively. You're going to glow in this mistake. We'll own it and we learn from it. We're not likely to make that mistake again. And again, we understand that the point of making the mistake is to learn a lesson. So where does the big learning come in? Well, it's all listed right here. The farther you get outside of your comfort zone, the easier it becomes to do this big learning, because it's really easy to do things that are inside our comfort zone. We may not want to try things that are outside of our comfort zone. So to get to the big learning, we'll need to get outside our comfort zone. But when we're there, we're going to screw up and we need to be okay with it. And then being afraid of mistakes is going to make you hang out inside that comfort zone, and nothing new, nothing exciting, nothing cool happens there. So again, the farther you get outside your comfort zone, the easier it's going to become to get there. So here's a quick challenge for you, is we want you to take action. I want you to be aware of your current response to mistakes. How do you typically deal with it? Do you deny and act like it didn't happen? Do you blame other people or the circumstance? Do you dwell on it, meaning you can't get over it? Number 2, whenever you make a mistake this month, so let's even say even through the end of November, even before we get into winter break, I want you to own it and learn from it. And how you're going to do this is just write the lesson on a sheet of paper. Okay, we're all learning in a similar space, and typically we're not moving from that space, and just have a sheet of paper sitting next to you that you can jot some notes on. So you can start to see at the end of the month, you can read through all those lessons and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, okay, here, yes, absolutely. And then what you can also do is you can ask someone that you trust to listen to your mistakes and help you learn all that you can from them. Because you can even say, like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to learn from this, but I knew I screwed up big. So what you're going to do today is you're going to send the PDF from our Schoology webpage into Notability, and then you're going to submit your completed worksheet to Schoology tonight. I really want you to make sure you get this done tonight so that you don't have any homework over the long weekend. All right. If you do have any questions, I will be on Schoology Messenger. You can shoot me a message there. Otherwise, you can send me an email. All right. Good luck and have fun.